Good morning, everyone. I'm wearing black because I'm going to go to a funeral later today to kill the person who decided to start this at 8 a.m. Honestly, like, I was just at Atlanta for the Atlanta Bitcoin conference, and it was funny because I'd promised I'd come and catch up with everyone here first, and then that one was on at the same time. I was like, fuck. And then me, as usual, I'm like, yeah, I'll just come to both. Really dumb idea, because then I didn't get to prepare for anything. I'm actually at another conference next week, and then El Salvador the week after. So I have nothing technically prepared, and the guys asked me to speak for the morning. So this morning I got up, and I don't have a clicker, so I'm gonna like change to the slide. And this is basically what came to mind. Do we have a clicker? Okay, you got a clicker. All right. So this is basically how I feel right now. You know, I'm asking for some guidance, and all I'm getting is ooga booga. So, but look, I'm gonna go through, like, the talk is supposed to be called A Vision for the Future, and I mean, at least if you've read some of my stuff, you might get a sense of my vision for where Bitcoin might take the world. Not so much a vision for Bitcoin, because I mean, I don't know. We can all debate about what Bitcoin is, how it works, what it's for. You know, some people think it's a financial product, you know, like the Wall Street guys who are like all excited about an ETF. Like, really? It's like the dumbest thing I could think of. But I'm going to talk. I think what I'll do with this discussion is, actually, how much time do I have? Do I have 30 minutes? Yeah. Okay, I have 30 minutes. All right. So in 30 minutes, I'm going to try wake everyone up and see what happens. And then we'll be able to get into the other talk. So let's go to the next slide. So this is actually an old slide of mine. It's an old presentation from a previous. I wonder where I actually did this. I think I might have done this at Bitcoin 2021. And basically, what I opened up with was just this idea of, look, I don't have to get up and convince everybody about the economic implication of Bitcoin and the fact that, you know, what's happening with this is quite likely the most asymmetric opportunity to ever exist, not just in our time, but in the history of humanity. Like, since we discovered money to the point where we are now, we've kind of transitioned. Like, the only thing that's changed is the object that represents money. You know, we started off just promising each other crap, then, you know, scraping, you know, little notes on cave walls. Like, the original money was, you know, the original ledger was like these carvings on a cave wall. It was like it was an account balance. You know, then we went and started trading rocks with each other, and salt and cattle and all this sort of stuff. And what we did was the medium that was money just evolved over time, and it was our pursuit in, honestly, like, I remember the first real proper Bitcoin article that I wrote back in, I don't know how many years ago now. It was called Homo sapiens, evolution, money, and Bitcoin. And it started out, like, the original quote was, Bitcoin started 70,000 years ago, because the whole progression from our capacity to take this metaphysical idea of money and actually transform it into something to use started back then. And it's all culminated into discovering what I like to describe as energy money, which is, you know, something that actually represents what money is supposed to represent at the metaphysical layer. So time and energy, right? So Bitcoin is a beautiful abstraction of that. But anyway, I'm not here to, you know, convince everyone of this economic fact, because whilst Bitcoin is going to compress all of that economic discovery over the last 70,000 years, it's gonna transition all of it, but compress it inside a couple of decades. And when you think about that as a wealth transfer, it's like mind blowing. I often tell people, it's like one Bitcoin will probably buy you, I don't know what, are we in Kansas now or Missouri? I don't fucking know. It'll buy you one of these states, okay? So if you've got a whole Bitcoin, you'll be able to buy one of these states in the next couple of decades. So that's kind of like what you want. But my intent here, and I think the reason why I did this meme, was that, like, you know, the low IQs get it, you know, the super high IQs get it. It's like it's the midwits that don't get it, right? So I don't need to convince anyone here. I hope that Bitcoin is the most important economic opportunity. What I actually want to focus on, to open this up and get us all sort of in the right mind frame, is the moral duty or the moral imperative around moving on to Bitcoin. So let's see what I've got on the next slide. Aha, okay. So the world is literally being overrun by automatons, like sort of soulless people who, want you to own nothing, have no privacy, and, look really, really happy. You can see it in her eyes, right? She's extraordinarily happy with her life. And we see it everywhere. Like, I don't want to make this a whole injection discussion, but like it was really funny for me. Is like I had this friend who went and got injected, and that's fine. People can do whatever the fuck they want, but they did that so that they could so it would be easier to fly. But then before flying, they still had to get nose raped, and then after getting nose raped, they still had to wear fucking 3 masks and do all this. I was like, so why did you do the first one in the first place? Oh, I don't know. It was convenient. I'm like, you do realize you're living in a broken simulation. So the world at the moment is like it's like full of zombies, and I don't know. I put a tweet out about a year ago, and I said, like, Hollywood predicted the zombie apocalypse multiple times, which is mindless things, walking around and infecting other people with mindlessness. But I didn't realize it would be this pathetic. Like, there's zombies everywhere. So, and these are the kind of people that are, encouraging the zombification of humanity. And we've got these small pockets of hope in Bitcoiners that are like trying to slap some sense into people and wake us up. And when I think about what Bitcoin actually does at the level of the individual, in terms of, I guess, I always change my mind about like Bitcoin's biggest impact, but I think for at least this talk and for today, the thing I'll really want to push on is the idea that Bitcoin reintroduces consequence to human action. And I think that's what we've been missing for a long time now, is that on this path to discovering better money, which is a necessity for human beings to be able to cooperate in a more complex fashion. We kind of figured out that money is basically, in some senses, on some level, a belief system. And, as a belief system, we can kind of believe what we want, right? Like, Icarus and his wax wings, believed that he could fly to the sun. And what we did was we started really treating it like a game, and we started treating the game as reality, and we've fooled ourselves into believing that reality doesn't exist, but what reality actually is the models that we develop. And so long as we can tweak the models and adjust the models, then reality should somehow conform to what we believe reality should fucking be. And what that does, it's kind of like, imagine, does anyone else here, other than me, feel pain? Like if you were to put your hand on a stove? Like, we've all got pain receptors, I hope. Okay. So do you think it would be a dumb idea? Well, let me ask it this way, actually. Does pain suck? Like when you feel it, right? It tells you, like it's like a slap in the face to not do something. So sometimes on the surface, it might sound like a good idea to remove the pain, right? So, pop a pill, numb yourself in some sort of way or whatever. But like removing the pain is usually a good thing, because what removing the pain biologically actually means is that you're no longer doing what is giving you pain. But in today's society, we've kind of like flipped it a little bit, is like in this pursuit of removing the pain, we actually numb ourselves into not feeling the pain. So if we look at why we have a pain receptor, if you put your hand in the fire, your body starts feeling pain, and it's telling you, hey, moron, take your hand out of the fire because you're going to burn your arm off. Like you're actually going to do damage. And in modernity, the solution to the problem of putting our hand in the fire is to remove the pain receptor and to be like, it's all okay. Keep your hand in the fire. It'll be fine. And all of a sudden we realize our fucking arm is gone, and then like the rest of us is in there, and we're all like burnt up and we're dead. So, or another analogy I like to use is imagine flying a plane, and the altimeter is telling you there's a mountain and you're about to crash, and you're like, I know how to fix this. I am going to take the altimeter out. And then, look, there's no problem. Instead of pulling the fucking thing up, you just fly right into the mountain because you've decided to like remove the signal, the thing that tells you that there's a problem. And that's what we've done with fiat money. I mean, on what universe does it make sense to literally shut everybody inside their homes, close their businesses, tell them what they fucking can and cannot do, who can sell what is essential, what is non-essential, and whatever else we've sort of seen in the last 18 months. But somehow the economy is okay because we pushed a couple buttons and we created a bunch of fake money and everything's fine. Like, the level of madness and cognitive dissonance is like beyond me. I honestly, every time I wake up in the morning, I'm like, the world cannot have got any dumber. I open Twitter, I'm like, I've been proven wrong again. Like, I'm pretty sure the other day I saw that 2 + 2 is racist. That was on my Twitter. I fucking saw it. It was real. I was like, this can't be real, but it was real, and I wanted to go back to bed. This is the kind of the level of lie where we're sort of living and experiencing today. It's completely mind-boggling. So economic consequence. What that means is, and a lot of people don't appreciate what the word economics means. And the way I like to frame it is, all decision-making at the level of the individual is economic in nature. Decision-making is a value judgment. You evaluate multiple options. You then decide where to put your precious time and energy, and you allocate it towards that. Every decision you make is economic in nature. And I don't think people really grasp this. They think like, it's psychological in nature. No, it's economic in nature. Everything that exists performs in an economic fashion. It is an attempt to most intelligently or most usefully allocate the two scarce things we have, which is time and energy. Energy being also the substance that makes up matter. So, you can kind of like slap all three of them together. Now, money is the way we measure those decisions, right? So we have this in a article that I did last year for the Bitcoin Times. It was called Utopian Dystopias, and the idea was like how in the pursuit of creating utopias, these deranged maniacs actually create dystopias. And they're happy about it. Say no more, right? What I put a model forward in there, which I really want to kind of work on a little bit more, but it's called the Table of Truth. And it says that, we're bound by 4 fixed constraints. We're bound by the fact that we have a finite amount of energy, and you can't destroy energy, you can't create it, like that there's a fixed amount, so all you can do is transform it. We've got a fixed amount of matter and resources, right? We can't just like snap our fingers and a bunch of gold pops up, like money, right? Money. I shouldn't even call it that. So we've got scarce energy. We've got scarce matter that is unevenly distributed around the world. Like the world is diverse. Nature is diverse. It's different everywhere. We've got the reality of time also being fixed. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but I have 24 hours in a day, at least how I measure it. I don't know if anyone wants to like talk about 25 hours in a day and like measure the minutes differently or something, but that's what we have. And we also have the fact that, and this is an interesting one about time, and this is also another rabbit hole about Bitcoin and time, but time moves in a particular direction. I don't know about any of you, but I haven't been able to move back in time. Haven't seen any evidence as yet, other than maybe Satoshi. But let's, that's an even bigger rabbit hole. So we've got these constraints. The future is uncertain. We can make guesses and estimations about it, but it's fundamentally uncertain. It moves into a space or a period that hasn't happened before. We've got fixed matter, time and energy. So we've got these constants, and the tabletop is kind of like intersubjective reality, where we all want different things. I mean, I'm sure that every single person in here has particular desires, wants, needs, things they like to do, things they don't like to do, that is completely different to the person sitting next to them. And that's a fucking beautiful thing. You know, that's actually part of what makes us human. That is the way I kind of like to portray it, is like life is happening at the tips, and we are actually at the tip of life, you know, as human beings. Like, we are right at the tip. We're actually life happening through us. And we're experimenting, we're trying things. What we've just got to be careful of doing is not being the next experiment that went wrong with life because of our own stupidity. So we've got this table of truth, this sort of finite, these constraints, and we have this intersubjective reality that ties them all together. How we navigate that is with the tool we call money. And the better the money, the better we can navigate how to use those constraints and how to measure the intersubjective value between each other and between everything we do. It is an absolute must. Society, civilization of any kind cannot exist without a functional money. So it's our job to sort of move towards a perfect money. And I'm writing a big piece now. It's going to be like sort of my magnum opus. It's called Fire, Bitcoin, Teleportation. And the whole point of this one is to sort of say that the first great discovery was actually fire. And that's sort of what shortened our intestinal tract, allowed energy to, the body's energy to sort of shift up and allow us to sort of grow a brain and consciousness to emerge. As a function of that, everything we've done up until then, since then, has been to discover Bitcoin, which is another energy transmutation process. And then the next big discovery will probably be teleportation, because then that's like kind of transforming matter into energy, sending it somewhere else and retransforming it into matter. But in there, I want to make the point that Bitcoin is so much bigger than just the next investment. You know, it's not just another stock. It's not just another currency. You know, it has nothing to do with Ethereum or fucking Cardano or whatever other horseshit gets, you know, created tomorrow or today or wherever, like by some scammer that wants to basically get rich at your expense. Like, you know, I said this in something I did, but it says, Bitcoiners want you to buy Bitcoin, and the only thing we have to sell you is your own freedom and sovereignty. Like, a shitcoiner has a shitcoin to sell you. There's a very big difference there. You know, I actually, when someone else buys Bitcoin and, like, let's say a bunch of people buy Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin goes up, I actually get annoyed because that just increased the cost of my freedom. I have to work more hours, I have to produce more value, I have to do more things to actually be free. Whereas a shitcoiner wants you to buy as many of their shitcoins as possible. So it's a very different motivation. So I've gone off on a bunch of tangents there. Coming back to what money does. In the absence of this tool called money, not being tied to reality or not representing reality close enough, whereby bad decision making has a consequence, what we do is we go off onto all these random tangents, and the behavior we exhibit as individuals and then collectively as a society becomes completely deranged. Nothing actually makes sense anymore. We do things, and you look back on it, it's like it's completely fucking mindless. Pricing, for example, in an economy is a signal. It's an information mechanism to tell you how to decipher the value of something. When that is distorted, you don't know what the value of anything is. Like today, there are real problems that are completely mispriced. Right now, there's kids starving in Africa, there's people who can't get fucking food, but here we are, like, and no, I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about like the next Silicon Valley app that is about dick pics comes out and gets funded with $100 million. Innovation. You know, it's like, all of this stuff is distorted. It's completely distorted because we don't have a mechanism of how to actually evaluate what's important anymore, what problems actually need to be fixed. So we start to make all these really, really poor decisions. So anyway, let's see what else I got on this slide, because that one slide took me. Okay, there we go. So I think this is where I was getting at. So to fight the Leviathan known as the state, we must first starve it of its most important source of nutrition, which is economic input. And that is simply a measure of the productive capacity of all human action that generates value. So it's literally the lifeblood of society. That's what we do. As we perform work, we need to measure it in some way, shape, or form, and money is the tool we use to measure that. If we have a broken tool, we don't know how to measure what we're doing. And the clown show that is bureaucrats and parasites, etc., who don't actually do anything, they just sort of exist to leech off the productive members of society. They can play whatever game they want. And they can give it whatever label or banner they want. And actually, the Uber driver last night told me something really good. He said, politics is, what is it? He said it's taking some money from a productive person and giving it to another bunch of unproductive people, and then promising both of them to protect each other from each other. I was like, that is so good. It's like, that you've got this sort of like middleman parasite that exists to like just fuck with people. So unless we move on to a Bitcoin standard, we are going to continually live a lie. And the problem with living a lie, and this is where, I feel like we're sort of almost getting close to this in society, is that what happened to Icarus in the end? He fooled himself. He thought that he could fly with waxed wings, and it was a shitcoin. Wax wings are a shitcoin. He put on his Ethereum. He talked to Vitalik, and he jumped off the cliff, and then he died. And that's kind of where we're at. We're at the point of the thing is, like, on an evolutionary timescale, we are at the point where, like, many people are jumping off the cliff, and it's really slow motion. Like, 1 year on an evolutionary timescale is like a microsecond for us in terms of life. So we're just like, jumping off that cliff. And what we need to do is we need to like strap on some actual wings, or actually maybe not jump off the cliff, or try and stop a few people from jumping off the cliff before everyone does feel the reality of gravity. So let's quickly jump through a couple others. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so everyone knows that the state... Actually, I'll finish on this. Basically, as we know, the state has, the parasite that is the state, I should say, has a couple mechanisms of funding itself. Taxation, that's like the covert one. And I was with Stefan Livera and the guys yesterday, and we were just talking about how stupid taxation is. It's like, I don't even live in Australia. I escaped the gulags a couple of years ago. I'm still paying tax there. And I'm like sitting there looking, I'm like, I don't want your services. I don't need anything from you. Fucking get away from me. And they still take their pound of flesh just because they can. Like, imagine paying for something that you don't want, that you don't need, but if you don't pay for it, you go to jail. Like, taxation. So, but the roads, right? Then you have inflation, right? So you have that's the covert tax, which that's actually probably more insidious because you don't think it's happening, but it's happening, and you're getting poor and you don't even know. We have the borrowing from the future, which is raping and pillaging our kids. That's a great way to raise money. But then and this is sort of the next slide really reinforces this, but it's like this idea of mindless mandates, like through creating regulatory moats and fines and all this sort of stuff. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see like this is an example of like my old home. So let's create a bunch of stupid fucking laws. Then people who want to just like go out and breathe some oxygen when they break the laws, let's fine them. And when they don't pay the fines, let's take their fucking house. Brilliant. What a scam. Like this is literally the lie we're living in. And unless we reintroduce economic consequence into the game of life, we will continue putting our hand in the fire and burning it off. We'll continue putting ourselves in the fire and burning our entire fucking body. Like at the moment, like if human civilization was a body, we've probably burnt both our arms off. We've burnt probably half our left arse cheek off. Like there's probably only little bits and pieces left, but we might be able to survive if we can move as many people as possible onto the Noah's Ark that is Bitcoin. So anyway, I don't know if I've done half an hour. I've rambled on a bit. Is everyone awake? Is that okay? Was this enjoyable and kind of educational? Okay, good. Apologies for my swearing. I have a propensity to do so. If you've ever watched my podcast, you'll know. So anyway, I hope that was useful. Thank you everyone for listening. I think if you're going to go away with one message, it's that economic consequence is a good thing. And we need to reintroduce it. And if Bitcoin's going to do anything, actually I do think I have one more slide in there which will just really close this. Keep going. This one. Oh. So, if we fix the money, we fix the individual, and then that's how we fix the world. Because if you don't fix the individual, you don't fix anything. Like, we need to reintroduce both consequence and reward into human action, and that's how behavior realigns, and that's how we fix the world. So, thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you so much, Alex. You know, one thing that you said, it reminded me of, I just had Saifedean on my podcast last week, it's this week, I guess, last week, I don't know. And he talked about how he believes if we never went off the gold standard and we never manipulated our economy and the price signals, that he truly believes that everyone on the planet would have running water, electricity, because those things are not actually that expensive. But you're right, we have these like $100 million crazy apps, and then people are still starving. And so it's just everything's so distorted. But thanks so much, Alex.